Video, we're going to be taking a look at some heartbreaking scenes from the Marvel films. There is a fair share of pretty sad moments in the MCU, some of which have probably made many of you watching this video shed a tear. People get so attached to the characters on screen, so when anything bad happens to any of them, we tend to get a little emotional. And so today, we're going to be looking at 10 of the most heartbreaking moments. Keep in mind that there could be spoilers throughout this video, and that this list is based on opinions that is in no particular order. Number 1. The death of Killmonger in Black Panther was fairly emotional for quite a few people, including me. Even though at first the guy came off as a bad person, and all he wanted was to get rid of T'Challa so that he could take over as king, by the end he showed that he wasn't all bad. As T'Challa and Killmonger went up against each other for the very last time, Killmonger ends up getting stabbed in the chest. The two find peace within each other, and they decide to sit and watch the sunset. But then sadly, Killmonger says that he doesn't want to be healed, and he wanted to be buried in the ocean with his ancestors. It truly was a sad moment.
Because they knew death was better than bondage.
Number 2. During Age of Ultron, we sadly had to say goodbye to Quicksilver, as he was shot. It was a very emotional moment, especially because of the reaction that we got from his sister. The Maximoff twins were introduced to us within the movie, but we sadly had to say goodbye to one of them. This heart-wrenching moment happens when Hawkeye rushes over to save a child from an incoming rain of bullets, when, within a flash, Quicksilver heroically took over all the firepower, which resulted in his death. We get to see the pure pain of his sister, Scarlet Witch, as the camera cuts to her and she's screaming in agony because of what she just witnessed. It was a horrible moment to say the least. Number 3. The Thor movies are some of my favorites. Thor: The Dark World specifically deals with themes of sibling rivalry. But Loki definitely suffers the most because he is constantly following the shadow of his older brother. Loki has so much resentment for Thor, and this made him clash with his father Odin. Loki believed that he was entitled to the throne, but Odin replied saying, "Your birthright was to die. As a child, cast out on a frozen rock. If I had not taken you in, you would not be here now, to hate me." Those were some pretty powerful words that came from Odin, but it was very emotional to witness, to be honest. And I actually felt half bad for Loki.
It is my birthright. Your birthright was to die!
Number 4. Next up, we have the death of Tony Stark during Avengers Endgame. I'm sure you all knew this was coming at some point. Endgame was an amazing movie and definitely takes the crown as one of the best Marvel films of all time. Thanos was finally defeated, but it came with a hefty price, which was Tony Stark's life. Tony saved the day, but before he snapped his fingers, he reminded everybody who he was, especially Thanos, and said, "I am Iron Man." It really was legendary. Thanos and his army faded away, but then Tony collapses and sadly he doesn't survive the ordeal. It's a very, very emotional moment, especially when Peter and Pepper go to talk to Tony and tell them that it's okay and he can now rest because they have won.
We won. Mr. Stark. We won, Mr. Stark.
Number 5. Avengers Infinity War was very eventful as there was a lot of stuff that happened within this movie. But the saddest moment, in my opinion, is the death of Gamora at the hands of Thanos himself. Thanos wanted to get a hold of the Soul Stone, but he knew that he had to sacrifice another soul that he loved, which turned out to be Gamora. Thanos loved her as his own daughter, but she didn't believe him. As hard as it may have been for a lot of us to believe that this was true, it definitely was, because if it wasn't, he wouldn't have gotten the Soul Stone. Before her death, Gamora laughed, saying that Thanos could never love anybody. But then tears start streaming down his face, and he dramatically changes the whole scene. This was another scene that hit me pretty hard, and it truly came as a shock to me.
I'm sorry, little one.
Number 6. Groot is an amazing Marvel character, probably one of my favorites from Guardians of the Galaxy, especially in his baby form because he's just so cute. All he can say is "I am Groot," and it's funny, charming, and pretty damn amazing. However, Groot has had his fair share of awesome moments, but one of the best is from Guardians of the Galaxy, where he sacrifices himself in order to save his friends. Thankfully, he doesn't actually die, but it was a pretty emotional moment still. The Guardians were facing immediate death, and if it wasn't for Groot wrapping his roots and arms around his friends to create a shield to protect them, they would have likely not survived the ordeal. Rocket pleads and says to him, "No, you'll die," and then Groot replies, "We are Groot." And it really was amazing, and it brought a little tear to my eye. At this moment, Groot changes everything with his simple yet powerful words.
We are Groot.
Number 7. We've included a lot of deaths on today's list, but the death of Vision was definitely a pretty emotional one that I'm not going to forget about anytime soon. The Avengers needed to destroy the Infinity Stone that was in his head, and the only way to do that was by, unfortunately, killing him. Scarlet Witch was actually in love with Vision, and she was the only one that had the power in order to destroy the Infinity Stone. So in order to do that, she had to kill Vision, which she really didn't want to do. He was so brave throughout all of it as he pleaded with her and told her to do it. It definitely was a pretty lip-trembling moment, for sure.
It's all right. You could never hurt me.
Number 8. Tony Stark and Steve Rogers have never really gotten along, and it's one thing that I was really upset by, to be honest, because they're both great characters and I love them both in their own ways. One of the saddest scenes from the MCU was when these two amazing characters went up against each other and had a fight. They were both good guys, but they ended up going off on each other because their personalities were so big and they were constantly clashing. Tony actually found out that Bucky, aka the Winter Soldier, killed his parents, and Cap didn't tell him about this, even though he knew. Steve says, "I'm sorry, Tony, but he's my friend." Tony then replies by saying, "So was I," and then a fight breaks out between them both. It was all from regret, anger, and hatred, but it was very sad to witness.
This isn't gonna change what happened.
I don't care. He killed my mom.
Number 9. The moment when Thanos snapped his fingers was truly one of the saddest moments that the MCU has given us. He finally got a hold of every single one of the Infinity Stones, and the villain snapped his fingers, wiping out half of all living things. The Earth definitely felt this, and it was a real struggle to comprehend what was going on. Right in front of our eyes, we saw some of our favorite characters turn into dust. Groot, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and a load of others. The remaining Avengers tried to understand what just happened, and then they realized what Thanos had done. This is truly something that I'm never really gonna forget.
Sorry.
Number 10. And last but not least, we have the moment from Guardians of the Galaxy, where it opens up with Peter Quill and his mother, who is terminally ill. We see Peter go to visit his mother in the hospital while she's lying on a hospital bed, barely making it through because of the brain cancer. She reaches out and says, "Take my hand." Peter turns around and runs out of the hospital because he's overwhelmed with emotions. Many people watching this moment were emotional as well. Before Quill can go back to see his mother, he's kidnapped by the Ravages. This truly is a moment that he regrets for the rest of his life.
No! No! No!
It's me.
No! No!
That's all for today though. What'd you think of today's video? Let us know in the comments below. But with that being said, this is the end of the video, so I'll see you in the next one.